I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Antonis Malaxianakis. He is the founder and CEO at Harbor Lab. Antonis, it's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
It's wonderful to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation, Judy.
Well, I'm very eager to talk with you, but before we do that, just a quick note to our viewers. This interview is for informational purposes only. The NYSE doesn't recommend any investments or investment strategies. All right, so Antonis, tell me about Harbor Lab, and how did you come up with the idea for the business?
So we started the company, we launched the product actually on March 10th, 2020, with a vision to onboard 20 vessels utilizing the platform by the end of the year. However, we ended up with 220 vessels on the first year of our existence. But let me tell you a bit more about what disbursements are actually and what we are doing. So disbursements are all the expenses that occur to a vessel when it reaches a port. It is the second largest expense for a shipping company after only bunkering expenses. They are separated in two main expenses, the port expenses and the husbandry expenses. So to give you a bit clarity on what the problem is and what we are solving is that on the port expenses, imagine that you own a parking and each floor in the parking to have a different pricing policy, and each spot in its floor a different pricing policy again. This is the problem that exists in the ports right now. So we as Harbor Lab, we have a dedicated team of port analysts, people with mathematical background that speak directly with the ports around the world. They receive the official documentation and they create algorithms about how each port expense is being calculated in every port, terminal, and berth. So port is the parking, terminal is the floor, and berth is the spot. And the second one is the husbandry expenses. It is what we call the maritime's last mile. So the problem here was that shipping companies used to work with one agent because they didn't have clarity about all the vendors in each port. So they used to work with the same guy, for the last 30 years. They were being overcharged, they didn't have a great quality of service. So now we created the first marketplace in the maritime that actually connects the ship owners with the port agents around the world, and they are able to negotiate their fees, and appoint the agents that they like to actually perform the tasks in the port.
Okay, so tell me, what are currently some of the major challenges or opportunities in your industry?
Actually, there are two challenges that are both opportunities as well right now in the industry. The first one is related with the emissions of the vessel, and the second one for the digitalization of the maritime processes. Regarding the emissions, I'm not an expert, but many maritime startups popped out the last couple of years. They utilize great technologies like AI, and I firmly believe that if the maritime industry gives them a chance, that in the next 5 years, they will be able to decrease their emissions and their bunkering expenses as well. Now, on the digitalization side of the business, this is a process that started a couple of years ago, actually. It is very high on the agenda of each shipping company. We are lucky, and the main reason for that, I believe, is because the shipping companies, when they utilize now a maritime startup, they can very easily have a high return on investment. For example, Harbor Lab right now, as far as we know, gives the highest return on investment in the industry, and we have a return on investment of 1 to 16, meaning that for each dollar that we are getting from the customers, we give them back and save them $16.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay, so now tell me, Antonis, what does the future of technology in the shipping industry look like, and how will you help shape the future?
Well, technology is a mean to an end, actually. What is very important for us startups to do is to actually create value for the ecosystem. This is how, as Antonis, feel like. It is important, let's say, to remember that the maritime industry started its digitalization journey just a couple of years ago. So we cannot go from zero to hero from day one. However, just to give you an example, shipping companies thought that they have digitalized the disbursement process by outsourcing the problem to another provider that checks the invoices manually themselves. So this isn't digitalization, in my opinion. So with the algorithm that we have created, We now need one person per 40 vessels, while before us, the shipping companies needed one person per 6 vessels. However, we have a very strong roadmap, and by utilizing AI after our Series A, we will be able, hopefully, to actually no need humans checking the invoices anymore. After all, it's a pretty boring job to do.
All right, well, Antonis, it's been wonderful to talk with you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much,
joining
Judy.
me on Floor Talk.
Thank you very much, Judy, for the invitation.